It's fascinating to consider how nature fills a void, especially when it comes to apex predators. After the age of dinosaurs ended, a new group emerged, the terror birds. And while most of these avian nightmares remained in the Americas, one species dared to cross the sea to Europe, the only member of its kind to do so. These terror birds, or forest racids as they were sometimes known, emerged roughly 53 million years ago, in the early Eocene. The world was a very different place then, a hothouse with lush forests stretching from pole to pole. This steamy prehistoric paradise was filled with a diverse range of life forms that arose after the dinosaurs disappeared. It was here that the first terror bird, Paleopsilopterus, made its debut. This Brazilian bird stood only about 3 feet tall, so it might not have seemed particularly terrifying at first glance. About the size of a modern-day stork, hardly nightmare fuel, you might think. But appearances can be deceiving. Paleopsilopterus had something its contemporaries lacked: potential. What set Paleopsilopterus apart was its agility and speed, traits that would become hallmarks of its descendants. It may not have been the apex predator of its time, being dwarfed by monstrous crocodilians and giant snakes, but it was a sign of things to come. The other inhabitants of ancient South America were witnessing the birth of a dynasty that would reign for millions of years. As the Eocene progressed, so did the terror birds. Nature, it seemed, had big plans for this lineage of avian predators. And those plans involved getting bigger. Just 3 million years after Paleopsilopterus took its first steps, a new player entered the scene. Eluthaornis, a terror bird that stood 50% taller than its ancestor, emerged as a formidable predator. But Eluthaornis wasn't content with merely growing in size. It also expanded its range in a way that no other terror bird would match. While most of its kin would remain firmly rooted in the Americas, Eluthaornis spread its wings and ventured across the sea to Europe. Fossil remains of this globe-trotting terror have been found in both France and Switzerland. I can only imagine the surprise of early European mammals when this exotic predator appeared, bringing a taste of South American terror to the Old World. Eluthaornis was just the opening act. As the epochs rolled by, the terror birds continued to grow, adapt, and diversify. It was as if they were engaged in a relentless competition with themselves, each new species trying to outdo its predecessors in size and ferocity. The Oligocene epoch, spanning from about 34 to 23 million years ago, marked a turning point in the terror bird saga. It was during this time that the family truly began to live up to its name, with the emergence of giants that would have given pause to even the bravest of prey, the Paraphysornis. This Brazilian bird was an absolute behemoth that stood 4.5 feet tall and weighed a whopping 400 pounds. To put that into perspective, Paraphysornis outweighed the largest living bird today, the ostrich. This was no lightweight contender. Paraphysornis was built like a feathered tank, with robust bones that spoke of raw power. Paleontologists believe that Paraphysornis hunted using a combination of kicks, slashes, and powerful jabs with its sharp beak. It's a hunting style that might remind one of a prehistoric version of mixed martial arts, with Paraphysornis as the undefeated heavyweight champion of its time. But Paraphysornis wasn't just a mindless brute. Like many of its terrorbird kins, it likely possessed a level of intelligence that set it apart from other contemporary predators. Studies of terrorbird brain cases suggest that they had well-developed visual and auditory centers, indicating keen senses that would have made them formidable hunters. As impressive as Paraphysornis was, it was merely setting the stage for what was to come. As we step into the Miocene and Pliocene epochs, spanning from about 23 to 2.5 million years ago, we encounter the true giants of the terrorbird family. These were creatures that pushed the boundaries of what it meant to be a bird, reaching sizes that rivaled the predatory dinosaurs of old. Three names stand out in this pantheon of avian terrors: Titanis, Kelenken, and Eluthaornis. Each of these genera represents the pinnacle of the terrorbird lineage, and each had its own claim to fame. It wasn't just about size. This adaptation gave them an increased bite force and pecking power, hinting at their ability to take down larger prey than we previously imagined, perhaps even some of the megafauna that roamed South America. And then there's Eluthaornis, constantly challenging Kelenken for the title of largest terrorbird. Though slightly shorter, around 9.2 feet, it was built like a feathered bulldozer, potentially weighing up to 880 pounds. That would make it not only the heaviest terrorbird, but also the heaviest carnivorous bird of all time. It's fascinating to consider that some paleontologists have questioned whether Eluthaornis was truly a terrorbird, or even a carnivore. They cite similarities in its toe claws to those of herbivorous birds. But more recent studies have identified features in Eluthaornis's vertebrae that seem unique to terrorbirds, as supporting its classification within this fearsome family. Regardless, its massive size would have made it a force to be reckoned with. I imagine that its weight likely made it slower than its more nimble cousins, but what it lacked in speed, it made up for in raw power. Eluthaornis, the tank of the terrorbird world, steamrolling over any prey unlucky enough to cross its path. While giants like Kelenken and Eluthaornis relied on their sheer size and power, many of their relatives took a different evolutionary path. Speed, it seems, was just as crucial. Studies of terrorbird leg bones have revealed a structure remarkably similar to that of modern-day ostriches. Short thigh bones paired with elongated lower leg and foot bones. This is a clear indicator of high-speed running ability. Paleontologists estimate that many terrorbirds, including some of the larger species like Titanis, could have reached speeds exceeding 30 miles per hour. That's faster than Usain Bolt, but while standing twice as tall and weighing several times as much. Speed wasn't just about chasing down prey. For many terrorbirds, especially the smaller and medium-sized species, it was also a crucial defensive adaptation. In a world filled with other large predators, including giant carnivorous mammals and enormous crocodilians, the ability to make a quick getaway could mean the difference between life and death. This combination of speed and size made terrorbirds versatile predators, capable of adapting to a variety of hunting strategies. Smaller, faster species might have specialized in chasing down swift prey, like small mammals and reptiles, while the larger, more powerful species could have employed ambush tactics, or even taken on larger, more dangerous quarry. While their imposing size and fearsome beaks often steal the spotlight, The true power of terror birds lay in their highly developed senses. It's no wonder these birds were able to dominate their ecosystems for millions of years. But even the mightiest rulers faced their downfall, and the reign of the terror birds was no exception. For millions of years, these avian predators had ruled supreme in South America, developing into a diverse array of species that filled various ecological niches. But somewhere along the line, their luck ran out. Traditionally, the extinction of the terror birds was linked to the Great American Interchange, a major paleobiogeographic event that occurred about 2.7 million years ago. This event saw the formation of the Isthmus of Panama, creating a land bridge between North and South America. As a result, animals from both continents were able to migrate across this newly formed connection, leading to a significant reshuffling of fauna. The conventional wisdom held that the influx of new predators from North America, including cats, dogs, and bears, outcompeted the terror birds, leading to their eventual extinction. It was a neat and tidy explanation that seemed to make perfect sense. However, as is often the case in science, the truth has turned out to be more complex and nuanced. Recent studies have cast doubt on this simple competition-based extinction model, revealing a more intricate tapestry of factors that led to their demise. The terror birds. The name itself sends a shiver down my spine. For years, I believed they vanished about 1 million years ago. But recent fossil discoveries have dramatically changed that timeline. Some smaller species may have lived as recently as 96,000 years ago. Even more amazing is the possibility that an unidentified species survived until only 18,000 years ago. That would place them almost at the cusp of human arrival in South America, around 15,000 years ago. I can't help but wonder, how close did our ancestors come to encountering these feathered giants? The competition hypothesis suggests that terror birds declined because they couldn't compete with placental predators that arrived in South America. But when you examine the fossil record more closely, a different picture emerges. Most terror birds, along with their competitors, disappeared long before the arrival of placental predators in significant numbers. And Titanis, a terror bird that successfully expanded into North America, coexisted with large canids and felines for millions of years. This suggests that at least some terror birds were more than capable of holding their own against mammalian predators. So, if competition wasn't the sole factor, what else was at play? Climate change likely had a significant impact. From the Oligocene to the Pliocene, Earth's climate underwent a long-term cooling trend, leading to a series of ice ages. As temperatures dropped and habitats changed, the lush forests that many terror birds relied on gave way to open grasslands. The early big cats related to tigers, such as Panthera paleocinensis, likely averaged around 70 to 120 kilos in weight. Following them was the trinal tiger, popularly believed to be the ancestor of all known Indonesian subspecies. I often find myself imagining the world through the eyes of creatures long gone. Imagine being an apex predator, ruling the wild, at the top of the food chain. Life at the top has its perks, certainly. But here's the thing. Even the most fearsome hunters aren't always the biggest beasts around. And yet, every so often, nature outdoes itself, creating a carnivore so specialized, so perfectly adapted to hunting big game that it seems almost like a creature of myth. The Ngandong tiger, for instance. This tiger existed from the early to the middle Pleistocene. Remains have been discovered in Trinil, Indonesia. There was a gradual increase in size over the years, explained perhaps by the competition for food among large carnivores, who needed to eat more and gain more weight to compete for the apex predator position. The earliest of these tigers weighed between 110 to 150 kilin. As time progressed, the Ngandong tiger took the stage, boasting a weight range of 200 to 350 kilos. But the Ngandong tiger wasn't the only fearsome beast vying for dominance. It faced stiff competition from other carnivores like the Smilodon, giant hyena, and dire wolves. The Smilodon, for example, is known for its long, slender canines that could reach up to 12 inches, capable of inflicting deep wounds on its prey. In contrast, the Ngandong tiger possessed more typical robust canines similar to modern tigers, ideal for crushing bone and delivering powerful bites, though less specialized for deep punctures, which was not always effective considering the enormous size of prey then. Although, when it comes to the matter of size, it appears that they were evenly matched as the largest species of Smilodon, the Smilodon populator, weighed between 220 and 436 kilos, and stood 120 centimeters tall, which is not that far off from that of the Ngandong tiger. A less formidable rival for the Ngandong tiger would have been the giant short-faced hyena, which stood about 90 to 100 centimeters at the shoulder and averaged 110 kg in weight. However, a group of animals that the Ngandong would not have dared to infiltrate are the dire wolves. Although they had smaller jaws and weighed way less than the Ngandong tiger, they had a unique edge over it, hunting in packs of more than 4 individuals. In contrast, as a solitary hunter, it would have been quite difficult for the Ngandong tiger to match that intensity when attacking prey. This factor placed it at a disadvantage in the competition for apex predator status. Then, Ngandong tiger's best chance would be a scavenging opportunity or an attack on a vulnerable stegodon like the young, injured, or isolated. Another example is the water buffaloes, known as bubulus, which are renowned for their large size and formidable strength, with some species weighing over 1,000 kilon and moving in packs. So it would have been quite hard to face a herd of water buffalo, as their massive size, strong horns, and collective defense would overpower the tiger. The Ngandong tiger's only chance against such a colossal opponent would be to exploit their limited agility and to target vulnerable areas through a surprise or flank attack. However, the Ngandong tiger succeeded more with other herbivores like Rusa timorensis, Malayan tapir, giant rats, gibbons, and wild boars. Despite its many difficulties, the Ngandong tiger still earned its place as one of the most impressive predators of all time. Since it hunted alone, its smart hunting skills and ability to target weaker prey, and even sometimes scavenge, shows us how adaptable and tough the beast was. This quality made it thrive for 1,000 years until the extreme climate shifts of the Pleistocene epoch. These included periods of intense cold, with vast ice sheets locking up water, leading to lower sea levels, followed by warmer periods with melting glaciers and rising sea levels. As a result of this, Sunderland was fragmented into smaller islands, leading to the isolated populations of Nyandong tigers with limited resources and genetic diversity. From these isolated populations emerged smaller subspecies of tigers, such as the Sumatran tiger, Bali tiger, and Javan tiger. While climate change undoubtedly played a role, scientists proposed that the presence of early humans in Southeast Asia might have been among the reasons why the tigers went extinct. They likely caused increased competition for resources or potential conflicts that impacted the Nyandong tiger population. Other factors may have also contributed to their demise. But with limited fossil records, we are left with many unanswered questions. Imagine a cat the size of a bear, capable of leaping over a one-story building. That thought has stayed with me ever since I first read about the Smilodon. This wasn't just any big cat. It was the undisputed monarch of the Ice Age. With its iconic saber teeth and fierce appearance, the Smilodon is one of the most instantly recognizable extinct predators. Though the world knows it as a saber-toothed cat, it didn't start out that way. Rewind the clock about 160 years and picture yourself in Brazil. It's here that our tale begins with a discovery that would perplex the scientific community. When the first Smilodon remains were unearthed, paleontologists didn't immediately recognize them as belonging to a cat. In fact, their initial guess was way off the mark. Based on some isolated cheek teeth that bore an uncanny resemblance to those of modern hyenas, they dubbed this new find Hyena neoga. However, within a couple of years, the tides of discovery brought forth a tsunami of new fossils. Suddenly, scientists weren't just looking at a few teeth, but a veritable jigsaw puzzle of prehistoric proportions. Foot bones, skull fragments, and those iconic canines, which, by the way, seemed almost comically oversized for any mouth, painted a very different picture. As the pieces fell into place, it became clear that this was no hyena. Instead, they were dealing with a completely new genus of felid, one that was not only massive in size, but also built like a prehistoric tank. This feline was far more robust than any modern cat, a true heavyweight champion of the Ice Age. In light of this revelation, a new name was in order. Thus, Smilodon populator was born. Smilodon, meaning knife tooth, and populator, roughly translating to the destroyer, or he who brings devastation. If you're thinking that sounds like the title of a heavy metal album, you're not wrong. And it's a fitting moniker for a predator that redefined what it meant to be lethal. With its new identity established, the scientific community dove headfirst into unraveling the Smilodon's family tree. This quest for understanding continues to this day, with researchers currently placing our knife-toothed friend in the extinct subfamily Machirodontinae. This subfamily is home to most of what we colloquially call saber-toothed tigers, though saber-toothed cats is more accurate since these ancient felines aren't closely related to modern tigers, or any living cats for that matter. In fact, their closest living relatives might be members of the Felinae subfamily, which includes our domestic kitties. Within the Machirodontinae, Smilodon found itself in an even more exclusive club, the Smilodontini, or, as some paleontologists like to call them, the dirk-toothed cats. This group is pretty exclusive, with only 5 known genera calling it home. But what Smilodontini lacks in diversity, it makes up for in star power thanks to Smilodon. As research progressed, scientists discovered that Smilodon wasn't a lone standout. It was more like a prehistoric trio with 3 distinct members, each bringing something unique to the table: S. gracilis, S. fatalis, and S. populator. Now, if you found yourself face to face with any of these species, you probably wouldn't be too concerned with which one was about to turn you into lunch. But they did have their differences. First up, we have S. gracilis, the elder statesman of the group. This OG appeared in North America about 2.5 million years ago, descending from an even older genus called Meganterion. Next came S. In fact, some paleontologists speculate that these Ice Age acrobats could have outjumped modern lions, which have been observed clearing heights of 15 feet or 4.5 meters. But the Smilodon's athletic prowess didn't stop at its fancy footwork. If modern big cats have arms that could crush you, Smilodon's forelimbs took it to the next level. We're talking about limbs that were approximately 20% thicker than what you'd expect for a cat of its size, giving it incredible strength, surpassing even that of the larger American lion. And at the end of those muscular arms, Smilodon was further armed with fully retractable claws, razor-sharp and curved like prehistoric scimitars. They were proportionally enormous, even for a cat of Smilodon size. We're talking about claws twice the size of a Siberian tiger's. Those saber teeth of Smilodon, they've captured imaginations for generations. Nature has played around with this dental design in various mammals, but Smilodon perfected it. The sheer, audacious length of those canines, that's what truly set them apart. We're talking about canines that could grow up to 8 inches long, longer than many modern kitchen knives. They were shaped like deadly daggers, designed to pierce deep into flesh. It's interesting because you'd expect a predator with teeth like that to have a powerful bite, but studies show that Smilodon's bite was relatively weak, 4 times weaker than a modern lion's. So, how did it kill? One theory suggests that Smilodon was the original ambush predator. Hidden in dense vegetation, waiting for the perfect moment, it would pounce, using muscular forelimbs and grappling hook claws to pin down its victim, sinking its saber teeth into the prey's soft underbelly. Another scenario suggests that Smilodon used its powerful build to quickly overpower its prey, delivering a precise lethal bite to the throat, causing severe blood loss and suffocation. Adding to this theory is the discovery that Smilodon could open its jaw to an incredible 120 degrees. Brain scans suggest that these prehistoric predators had excellent coordination, sharp hearing, and top-notch vision. Their eye socket shape hints at binocular vision, giving them the depth perception needed to judge distances accurately, crucial for a predator that relied on ambush tactics. They were also fast. Many Smilodon fossils show trauma to their sternums, the kind of injury you'd expect from high-speed collisions. Smilodon targeted oversized versions of animals we recognize today. In North America, giant bison, camels, and even mastodons and Columbian mammoths were on the menu. In South America, they hunted creatures like Toxodon, Litopterna, various species of Glyptodon, along with more familiar animals such as horses and camelids. Some evidence even suggests that Smilodon occasionally went after caimans, One big question that's still hotly debated is whether Smilodon was a lone hunter or a team player. This allowed them to live alongside a veritable who's who of Pleistocene megafauna. We're talking about a world where you might encounter short-faced bears, proboscideans, ground sloths the size of cars, armored glyptodonts, the rhino-like toxodons, camels, deer, horses, bison, and even terrorbirds. It was like a real-life version of the ice levels in every video game, but with much more lethal prehistoric cats. But there was one more species that Smilans encountered in their twilight years, one that would change the face of the planet forever: humans. It's believed that our ancestors might have first crossed paths with Smilans around 25,000 years ago. Imagine being one of those early humans, armed with nothing but primitive tools, coming face to face with a saber-toothed cat. The relationship was likely tense. After all, we were competing for many of the same food sources. And, unfortunately for our ancestors, by the time humans arrived on the scene, only the larger Smilodon populator and Smilodon fatalis remained. Talk about bad timing. Given that Meganterion, the possible predecessor of Smilodon, was known to occasionally prey on Homo erectus, it's not a stretch to imagine that Smilodon might have considered early humans as potential prey too. I've always been fascinated by the end of things, the quiet disappearance of giants. Consider the Smilodon. For over 20 million years, its lineage dominated the planet. And then, roughly 10,000 years ago, they were gone. The last of the saber-toothed cats, not just in the Americas, but worldwide. What happened? It seems that researchers in 2021 discovered a petroglyph depicting humans observing a Smilodon from afar. A tantalizing glimpse into a shared world. While we don't have direct evidence of human versus Smilodon confrontations, I imagine our technology and group tactics gave us an edge against these predators. The question of their extinction still fuels debate among paleontologists. Some believe we played a significant role, perhaps through competition or habitat alteration. Others point to the broader Quaternary extinction event, a period of climate change that wiped out many large animal species in North and South America. As the megafauna that Smilodon relied on disappeared, so did they. In a way, their very adaptations, their specialization in hunting large prey, became their downfall. They were simply too good at one thing, and when the world changed, they couldn't adapt. Most apex predators face a fundamental limitation. They're trapped in one environment. Lions rule the savanna, but are helpless in water. Great whites dominate the ocean, but can't set a fin on land. Even T-Rex, for all its might, was confined to dry ground. For over a century, paleontologists assumed the greatest hunters were strictly terrestrial. Then, one discovery shattered that belief overnight: Spinosaurus aegyptiacus. Longer than a bus, armed with the skull of a crocodile and the body of a streamlined aquatic hunter, this was no ordinary killer. This was the nightmare that redefined what it meant to be an apex predator. A monster that could rival, and in many ways surpass, even T-Rex itself. The first thing that truly unsettles you about Spinosaurus is how perfectly wrong everything about this creature appears, and yet how devastatingly effective each bizarre feature proved to be. Take that skull, a narrow, elongated nightmare stretching nearly 6 feet long. If you've ever stared into the eyes of a large crocodile, you understand the primal fear that comes from seeing a predator perfectly designed for aquatic ambush. Now, imagine that same sinister profile scaled up to dwarf any modern crocodilian, mounted on a body that could rear up 20 feet into the air. Those jaws housed over 60 interlocking teeth, each one a curved, needle-sharp instrument of death, designed for gripping slippery, struggling prey underwater. Unlike the bone-crushing teeth of T-Rex, built for delivering massive bite forces to terrestrial victims, Spinosaurus's teeth were fishing spears made of enamel. Once those jaws clamped down on a 15-foot sawfish or massive lungfish, escape became physically impossible. But the skull was just the beginning of this creature's aquatic arsenal. Where other theropods developed powerful legs for running down prey across land, Spinosaurus rewired its body for a different kill zone. Its toes were webbed, its legs positioned differently, its entire lower body redesigned for propulsion through water rather than speed across terrain. For anything living in those rivers, the nightmare was the same. The faint ripple at the surface, the sudden silence, and then the 7-ton shadow sliding in after you. And while most large theropods had relatively small forelimbs, Spinosaurus possessed powerful, elongated arms ending in massive claws. These weren't vestigial appendages. They were additional weapons, perfectly positioned for grabbing prey, maintaining balance in water, or delivering killing blows. The creature could literally embrace its victims to death. And then there's the sail, rising up to 7 feet above its spine. This massive dorsal fin dominated Spinosaurus's silhouette like the warning flag of death itself. Scientists debate its exact function: thermoregulation, display, fat storage for surviving dry seasons. But its psychological impact is undeniable. Picture this nightmare rising from murky water. First, the elongated snout breaking the surface, then those cold reptilian eyes, and finally, that towering sail cutting through the air like the dorsal fin of some impossible shark. I keep picturing the rivers of Cretaceous Africa. For millions of years, animals approached those waters knowing the risks. Stay alert, drink quickly, watch for crocodiles. Then Spinosaurus arrived, and suddenly the riverbank itself became a death trap. The attack began before you even realized you were being hunted. While you scanned for familiar threats, death approached from an angle you weren't prepared for: the shoreline. Those paddle feet weren't just for show. They propelled Spinosaurus through water with surprising speed and maneuverability, allowing it to pursue prey through underwater mazes of fallen logs and vegetation, where other large predators would become trapped or disoriented. Unlike purely aquatic predators relying on ambush, or terrestrial ones limited to shoreline attacks, this nightmare could adapt its hunting strategy in real time. Miss your target underwater? Simply rise to the surface and use those powerful arms to snatch prey from above. Prey takes refuge in shallow water. Those webbed feet provided perfect stability for wading attacks that no other large theropod could attempt. The hunting scenarios become even more terrifying when you consider Spinosaurus's intelligence. Crocodiles are clever hunters, but they're still reptiles operating on instinct. Spinosaurus possessed the problem-solving capabilities of a large theropod, the same cognitive tools that made other members of its group such effective pack hunters. Except this intelligence was applied to an environment where most prey had never faced anything remotely similar. Even more disturbing was how Spinosaurus turned the very act of drinking water into a death trap. But the teeth were just the beginning of Spinosaurus's sensory arsenal. Recent studies suggest this predator possessed press-sensitive organs along its snout, much like modern crocodiles, but far more specialized. In murky river water, where visibility dropped to mere inches, Spinosaurus could detect the faint press waves of swimming fish from remarkable distances. Prey animals that relied on hiding in dark, sediment-filled water were essentially sitting ducks against a hunter that tracked by feel rather than sight. Every movement in the water, a fish changing direction, a turtle surfacing for air, even the subtle current disturbance created by gills extracting oxygen, registered on Spinosaurus's press sensors like sonar pings on a submarine's display. The creature could track multiple targets simultaneously, predict their movements, and position itself for killing strikes with mechanical precision. Those massive nostrils, positioned high on the skull like a crocodile's, allowed Spinosaurus to breathe while almost fully submerged, keeping most of its body hidden beneath the surface. But the true weapon wasn't smell. It was touch. Its snout was covered in a dense network of tiny sensory pits, specialized for detecting press waves and subtle water disturbances. In murky rivers where visibility dropped to inches, this system worked like underwater radar. On land, giants like Carcharodontosaurus patrolled the inland areas, while Spinosaurus dominated the waterways, and Sarasuchus, the 40-foot supercroc, competed directly with it for aquatic hunting grounds. Mid-sized hunters such as Rugops cleaned up Spinosaurus leftovers, while swift predators like Deltadroius and Bahariosaurus used speed and specialized tactics to carve out their place. Herbivores somehow survived this gauntlet. Oranosaurus, Rebachiosaurus, and the colossal Paralititan. The waters themselves were far from safe, filled with monstrous prey like Entroprist, Morsonia, Calanths, Lepidotes, and lungfish. Every species in this ecosystem lived in constant tension with Spinosaurus's dominance. Land predators maintained uneasy truces. Herbivores relied on elaborate survival tactics just to drink, and aquatic prey developed increasingly tough defenses. The last Spinosaurus died approximately 94 million years ago. But the questions this creature raises about predation, dominance, and the very limits of survival continue to ripple through scientific understanding, like press waves from some impossible prehistoric nightmare that refuses to stay buried in stone. When we think of prehistoric apex predators, our minds often drift to the iconic Tyrannosaurus rex or the fearsome megalodon. Yet, lurking in North America's ancient past was a predator so extraordinary it could make today's largest wolves look like lapdogs. Today's grey wolf may hold the crown as the largest living canid, reaching weights at 65 kilon or 143 lbia. But rewind to the Miocene epoch 20 to 5 million years ago, and the game changes. A new apex predator emerges. Meet Epoch, a colossal predator so fearsome it could rival a lioness in size, and had jaws powerful enough to outmatch a grizzly bear. In simpler terms, this was a dog that could eat a lion. Its name says it all, Epicyon, meaning more than a dog, because calling it just a dog doesn't do it justice. The story of Epicon's discovery represents one of paleontology's most intriguing progressions from misidentification to revelation. Over 160 years ago, in the fossil-rich sediments of Nebraska, scientists unearthed the first fragments of what would later be recognized as the largest canid species ever to walk the Earth. The initial discovery consisted of a fragmented lower jaw. While obviously from a large carnivore, it provided only hints of the creature's true nature. The jaw's wolf-like characteristics led early paleontologists to classify it as a subgenus of Canis, the genus that includes modern wolves, coyotes, and jackals. This classification seemed logical at the time, given the limited fossil evidence. However, as more complete specimens emerged from North American fossil beds throughout the following decades, a much more complex picture began to emerge. The discovery of complete skulls proved particularly revolutionary. They suggest that the Paraphysornis represented a highly specialized branch, one that followed a unique evolutionary path compared to the lineage that would eventually lead to modern wolves and dogs. This specialization helps explain both Epicyon's unusual features and its eventual fate. Within the genus Epicyon, 3 distinct species emerged to fill different ecological niches: Epicyon savus, Epicyon haydeni, and Epicyon elodontoides. While all 3 species were impressive predators, they varied significantly in size and build. The smaller species, E. savus and E. elodontoides, while still formidable, possessed more gracile builds that allowed for greater agility and speed. To put their size in perspective, even these smaller species typically weighed twice as much as a modern German Shepherd. But it was Epicyon haydeni that truly pushed the boundaries of canid adaptation. Recent studies of well-preserved specimens have revealed truly impressive dimensions. Adults routinely reached lengths of 2.4 meters, or nearly 8 feet, rivaling the length of a grizzly bear, while standing 90 centimeters, or 35 inches, at the shoulder, comparable to the height of a wild deer. This massive frame supported an equally impressive body mass, with average adults weighing between 125 and 170 kilograms, making them heavier than modern leopards and comparable to large jaguars. Microscopic analysis of wear patterns on preserved teeth provides direct evidence of how Epicyon used its formidable bite in real-world situations. These studies show distinctive patterns of wear consistent with both flesh-slicing and bone-crushing activities, suggesting a predator that could efficiently process every part of its prey. Evidence from fossil deposits indicates that Epicyon was an opportunistic predator capable of taking down a wide range of prey. Their fossil remains have been found in association with various prey species, including ancient camels, pronghorns, horses, and peccaries. Perhaps most impressively, they appear to have been capable of hunting prehistoric rhinoceros species like Teleoceras, which could reach lengths of 4 meters and weigh nearly 2 tons. Recent studies suggest that Epicyon may have employed different hunting strategies depending on prey size and availability. For smaller prey, they likely hunted alone or in pairs, using their impressive speed and power to quickly overwhelm victims. However, evidence increasingly points to the possibility that they also engaged in pack hunting, particularly when targeting larger prey. This hypothesis of social hunting behavior is supported by multiple lines of evidence. First, nearly all well-studied modern canids exhibit some degree of social behavior, with most species showing higher levels of sociality than the average mammal. But one of Epicion's most remarkable features was its ability to process and digest bone. That's what really sets it apart from most other large carnivores. Its specialized premolars and thickened molars, with their short, pyramid-like shape and wide bases, closely resembled those of modern hyenas. It's a fascinating example of unrelated species developing similar adaptations to exploit the same ecological niche. Recent analysis of fossilized feces associated with Epicion revealed high concentrations of processed bone material, confirming their bone-crushing behavior. This would have given them several advantages. First, it allowed them to extract maximum nutrition from their kills by accessing bone marrow, one of the most nutrient-rich tissues available to carnivores. Second, it potentially reduced competition with other predators by allowing them to use parts of carcasses that other carnivores couldn't process. I'd imagine this ability to process bone would have been especially valuable during periods of scarcity. The Miocene epoch was characterized by significant climate fluctuations, with periods of both warming and cooling, and shifts between wet and dry conditions. During times when prey was scarce, the ability to fully use every part of a carcass, including the bones, would have provided a crucial survival advantage. The success of Epicion is clear from its widespread distribution across North America during the Miocene. Fossil remains have been found in more than 10 different US states and parts of southern Canada, showing a remarkable ability to adapt to various environments. Paleo-environmental studies have shown that these ancient predators thrived in a diverse array of habitats, from woodlands and savannas to grasslands and wetlands. I find it particularly interesting that Epicyon remains have been discovered in cave systems and edge environments, areas where different habitat types meet. These findings suggest that Epicyon was not only adaptable, but potentially strategic in its habitat selection, preferring areas that offered both hunting opportunities and shelter. Their ability to process a variety of foods likely contributed to this ecological flexibility. While primarily carnivorous, the structure of their teeth suggests they could also process tough plant material when necessary. This dietary flexibility, combined with their bone-crushing abilities, would have allowed them to survive in a wide range of environments and through various seasonal changes. The ultimate disappearance of Epicyon from the fossil record has long intrigued paleontologists. Early theories suggested that competition from newly arriving big cats led to their extinction. However, this hypothesis has largely been discounted, as many of the large cats that would have competed with Epicyon, such as the famous Smilodon, the saber-toothed cat, didn't appear in North America until millions of years after Epicyon's disappearance. Current evidence points to climate change as the primary driver of Epicyon's extinction. The late Miocene saw significant global cooling and increased aridity, leading to fundamental changes in North American ecosystems. Paleobotanical studies indicate a shift from mixed woodland savanna environments to more open grasslands. This transformation would have affected not only the types of prey available, but also hunting strategies. Epochean's specialized adaptations, its heavy build, bone-crushing teeth, and relatively short legs may have become disadvantageous as prey species became faster and more adapted to open environments. Unlike their more generalized relatives, which gave rise to modern wolves and other canids, Epochean's extreme specializations may have limited its ability to cope with these changing conditions. In the dying days of the Cretaceous period, when colossal predators like the Tyrannosaurus rex reigned supreme, creatures such as Triceratops and Hadrosaurs often bore the savage scars of T-Rex attacks. Yet, amid this world of relentless aggression, one creature's fossils remain curiously unmarked by such ferocious battles. It wasn't the tallest, fastest, or most fearsome predator. These weren't the slender bones of theropods or the broad frills of ceratopsians. Brown had uncovered fragments of bony plates, uniquely shaped teeth, and vertebrae that hinted at a heavily armored animal. Early interpretations were cautious. Brown initially speculated that the bones might belong to a previously unknown type of armored dinosaur. Over time, excavations in Canada and the western United States revealed more specimens, each shedding light on the creature's physical characteristics. The painstaking process of piecing together its skeletal framework was like assembling a prehistoric jigsaw puzzle. Each discovery added a layer of complexity to the story. What made Ankylosaurus magniventrus stand out was its robust anatomy and its ecological implications. Fossils were found with plant remains, indicating the lush environments it inhabited. Over the decades, advances in paleontological techniques, including CT scanning and isotope analysis, have allowed scientists to reconstruct its appearance and understand its lifestyle. From the armored plates to the distinctive club at the end of its tail, Ankylosaurus epitomized nature's ingenuity. What made this discovery particularly groundbreaking was that it didn't just represent a new species. It became the cornerstone of an entirely new group of dinosaurs, the Ankylosauria. These animals, belonging to the larger clade Ornithischia, were characterized by extensive armor plating and a herbivorous lifestyle. Shaped like a broad triangle, it was designed to withstand immense press. Its jaw mechanics, though less powerful than those of a carnivore, were finely tuned for grinding tough plant material. The teeth, small but ridged, created an effective tool for processing vegetation, suggesting a highly specialized feeding strategy. The placement of its nostrils and the complexity of its nasal passages indicate not only a heightened sense of smell, but also the possibility of thermoregulatory adaptations. And speaking of armor, the Ankylosaurus's defensive system was far more sophisticated than initially understood. While we've known about its bony plates, or osteoderms, for decades, recent microscopic analysis has revealed an intricate network of blood vessels running through these structures. This suggests that the armor might have served multiple purposes, not just protection, but possibly also helping to regulate body temperature, similar to how some modern reptiles use their scales for thermoregulation. The number of these osteoderms remains a subject of debate, among paleontologists, with estimates ranging from 30 to well over 100. What's particularly intriguing is their unique construction. Unlike other armored dinosaurs that had solid, thick plates, the Ankylosaurus possessed something more sophisticated: osteoderms with hollow undersides. This seemingly counterintuitive design actually represented a remarkable feat of natural engineering. While much of its life remains a mystery, fossil evidence offers glimpses into its daily routines and survival strategies. Juvenile Ankylosaurus specimens, for example, lacked the fully developed armor and tail clubs seen in adults. This vulnerability likely necessitated group behavior during the early stages of life. Trackway fossils suggest juveniles may have formed protective herds, with larger individuals shielding the more vulnerable young in the center, a defensive strategy reminiscent of modern muskoxen. As they matured, Ankylosaurus individuals underwent significant lifestyle changes. Adults appear to have been predominantly solitary, a conclusion supported by the rarity of adult specimens found in groups. Their solitary behavior was likely a reflection of their formidable defenses, which allowed them to traverse their environments without fear of predation. Solitary adults might have roamed large territories, primarily in search of food and suitable habitat, avoiding direct competition with other herbivores. Some paleontologists have even speculated that Ankylosaurus might have used its tail club for intraspecific communication or dominance disputes. This theory is supported by observations of similar behaviors in modern animals with physical weaponry, such as bighorn sheep or rhinoceroses. The display of their tail clubs, combined with body size and posturing, could have deterred rivals without escalating into physical conflict. However, the evidence remains inconclusive, and further fossil discoveries may provide clarity on this aspect of their behavior. Ankylosaurus thrived in the rich and dynamic ecosystems of late Cretaceous North America, particularly in regions that would later become known as the Hell Creek Formation. This area was a mosaic of environments, ranging from subtropical forests to open floodplains teeming with diverse flora and fauna. Fossilized plant remains suggest Ankylosaurus inhabited regions with abundant low-growing vegetation, which suited its low-slung, ground-grazing body. The climate of the late Cretaceous was warmer and more humid than today, which supported lush forests dominated by conifers, cycads, and ferns. Ankylosaurus likely played a role in shaping this ecosystem, though not as extensively as herding dinosaurs like hadrosaurs. Instead, its selective feeding habits might have influenced plant growth patterns in localized areas. The association of Ankylosaurus fossils with specific types of vegetation has led researchers to hypothesize that they may have helped disperse seeds, inadvertently promoting plant diversity. Seasonal changes would have impacted the behavior of Ankylosaurus. Fossil evidence indicates that some regions experienced dry and wet seasons, influencing the availability of food resources. Ankylosaurus may have adapted by modifying its diet or undertaking small-scale migrations to follow vegetation growth. The robust construction of its body, coupled with its ability to consume tough plant material, would have allowed it to survive in less than ideal conditions. The coexistence of Ankylosaurus with large herbivores like Triceratops and Edmontosaurus, as well as apex predators like Tyrannosaurus rex, paints a vivid picture of its ecological niche. While Ankylosaurus was not the most numerous dinosaur in its ecosystem, its defensive adaptations end its survival alongside fierce competition. Its presence in these environments exemplifies. I've always been fascinated by the idea of an animal kingdom food web, where every creature, no matter how small, plays a specialized role. The Ankylosaurus, that heavily armored herbivore of the Cretaceous, was a perfect example. Its entire being, from its low-slung muzzle to its complex gut, was a testament to adaptation and survival. It was more than just a plant eater. It was a finely tuned eating machine. The Ankylosaurus, you see, wasn't just munching on any greenery it could find. It was stripping ferns, cycads, and horsetails with those simple ridge teeth, then using powerful jaw muscles to grind it all down. Recent studies suggest its diet might have been surprisingly flexible. While plants were its main fare, it may have occasionally supplemented with fungi or small invertebrates. It reminds me of modern tortoises and iguanas, who sometimes sneak in a bit of protein. And then there's the gut. Oh, that remarkable gut! The teeth were simply too large and unique to belong to any known marine reptile, prompting a deeper investigation. Dr. Joseph Leidy, a leading paleontologist of the 19th century, played a crucial role in unraveling the mystery. His meticulous examination and publications corrected the initial misclassification. Leidy's research revealed that the teeth belonged to an entirely different kind of prehistoric creature. This newly proposed classification reflected the immense size and formidable presence of this crocodilian, which was aptly named Deinosuchus hatcheri in honor of John Bell Hatcher, a distinguished paleontologist. The claim was that adult Deinosuchus could reach almost 50 feet in length and weigh over 10 tons. I remember when I first read that, the thought of such a massive crocodilian ancestor really captured my imagination. What's fascinating is that, unlike many prehistoric giants, Deinosuchus has held on to its colossal reputation. New discoveries keep confirming just how immense it really was. There are 3 recognized species: Deinosuchus, hatcheri, rugosus, and riograndensis. The hatcheri, found in North Carolina, was one of the first identified, giving us critical insights into the genus. The rugosus, mainly from Montana, had a more robust build, maybe because it hunted different prey or lived in a different environment. But the riograndensis, found in Texas, that one grew even larger than its eastern relatives. The remains of the riograndensis were more plentiful and better preserved, which gave us a clearer picture of how these giants lived and what role they played in their ecosystems. Paleontologists now think that an average adult Deinosuchus was about 26 to 33 feet long and weighed between 2.5 and 5 tons, more than twice the size of a male hippo, and some grew even bigger. So even though those first estimates were a little off, the reality of Deinosuchus's size is still incredibly impressive. The riograndensis species really stands out. Studies of the Texas remains suggest the largest individuals could reach lengths of up to 12 meters, almost 40 feet, and weigh around 8.5 tons. That's not just the largest crocodilian ever, but heavier than most dinosaurs, except maybe Tyrannosaurus rex. Paleontologist Thomas Lehman studied the Texas fossils extensively. His research showed that the largest specimens had growth rings in their osteoderms, kind of like tree rings. These rings told us about their age and growth rates. It seems some of the largest Riograndenses grew rapidly when they were young, then slowed down as they got older. This really highlights how important things like food and climate were to their growth and maximum size. Deinosuchus, in many ways, resembled modern alligators. The body, the snout. Superficially, they were quite similar. That said, Deinosuchus had a unique skull shape, unlike anything we see in living or extinct crocodilians. The skull itself was huge, up to 5.6 feet long, comparable to an adult Spinosaurus. What's interesting, though, is that despite its size and build, its bite force wasn't as strong as you might think. One study put it at about 18,000 newtons, enough to crush bones, but actually weaker than a saltwater crocodile, which can exert about 16,500 newtons. Still, the skull was highly specialized. The teeth were arranged in a way that showed it was adapted to a predatory lifestyle. Sharp front teeth for grabbing prey, and blunt rear teeth for crushing bones. This allowed it to eat everything from large dinosaurs to hard-shelled turtles. The bite force has been a topic of debate. Initial research suggested around 18,000 newtons, based on the skull's size and structure. But then, another study proposed it could have exceeded 100,000 newtons, almost double that of Tyrannosaurus rex. That dramatic difference really shows how much discussion is still happening in the paleontological community. Dr. Greg Erickson used biomechanical modeling to simulate the bite. His team found that the skull and teeth could support such a strong bite. With 22 robust teeth, some specifically for crushing bones, Deinosuchus was well equipped to exert tremendous press. The latest evidence does seem to lean towards the higher end, suggesting that Deinosuchus really did have one of the most powerful bites of any known predator. It all lines up with the physical characteristics of its skull and teeth. The diverse range of prey items found within Deinosuchus coprolites highlights its opportunistic feeding behavior. It seems this ancient predator consumed everything from large herbivorous dinosaurs to smaller aquatic creatures. Deinosuchus likely relied on ambush tactics, using its massive size and crushing bite to inflict fatal injuries on its prey. Much like modern crocodiles, it probably employed the infamous death roll maneuver to hunt efficiently. This involved grabbing prey and then rapidly rotating its body, using its weight and momentum to incapacitate and dismember the animal. Reconstructing the hunting methods of Deinosuchus involves analyzing fossil evidence and comparing it to the behavior of modern crocodilians. Its robust anatomical features, including strong neck muscles and a sturdy body, certainly support this hypothesis, suggesting it was a highly effective predator in its ancient ecosystem. Interestingly, Deinosuchus experienced a slow growth rate. Growth rings on its osteoderms, those bony plates in the skin, indicate that it took around 35 years to reach its full size. Even as juveniles, though, they were formidable predators, sporting considerable size and powerful bites. Adding to their fearsome nature, Deinosuchus individuals were equipped with large, thick osteoderms that provided substantial protection against predators and environmental hazards. DNA analysis has revealed that it emerged from an isolated population of cave lions, trapped south of the North American ice sheets some 340,000 years ago. This separation occurred during a crucial period, leading to rapid adaptations to North American environments. While modern lions are their closest living relatives, the last common ancestor lived somewhere between 500,000 and 1.9 million years ago. A testament to how quickly changes can occur under the right conditions. All of this prompted researchers to reclassify the species under the genus Panthera. The sheer size of the American lion sets it apart from any feline, living or extinct. On average, they were about 25% larger than today's African lions. Male American lions typically weighed between 351 kg 774 lb and 420 kg 930 lb, making them substantially larger than any living big cat. The most impressive specimens, discovered in 2012, have been estimated to weigh an astounding 523 kg 153 lb, equivalent to the weight of 8 adult humans combined. Even the largest recorded Siberian tigers, the biggest living cats today, rarely exceed 300 kilos, 660 lb. The American lion's only real competitor for size was the equally impressive Smilodon populator, which could reach weights of up to 470 kilos, 40 lb. However, the discovery of those exceptionally large American lion specimens in 2012 firmly established Panthera atrox as the heavyweight champion of the feline world. What makes the American lion particularly remarkable is that despite its enormous size, it maintained the agility and speed characteristic of big cats. Conservative estimates suggest it could reach speeds of over 30 mph, 48 km/h, faster than any human athlete, and comparable to a charging warthog. This combination of size and speed would have made it an extraordinarily effective predator. The hunting strategy of the American lion likely relied heavily on ambush tactics. This conclusion is drawn from both its anatomical features and the hunting behaviors of its modern relatives. Its robust bone structure and powerful muscles would have allowed it to quickly overwhelm large prey, while its long legs provided the burst speed necessary for successful ambush attacks. Fossil evidence provides compelling insights into its hunting capabilities. The discovery of Blue Babe, a remarkably preserved steppe bison in Alaska, bears the unmistakable marks of an American lion attack. Deep claw wounds and distinctive bite patterns that match the predator's dentition. Even more telling are the fossils found at sites like Natural Trap Cave in Wyoming, where researchers have uncovered numerous prey species bearing the characteristic damage patterns of American lion predation. What truly set American lions apart from their contemporary rivals wasn't just their size. It was their exceptional adaptability and territorial dominance. Recent studies of fossil deposits across North America have revealed fascinating insights into their social structure and hunting territories. Unlike modern African lions that typically control territories of 100 to 200 kilometers, evidence suggests that American lions commanded vastly larger ranges, some extending up to 500 kilometers per pride. This massive territory was a necessity, not a luxury, given their enormous size and corresponding caloric needs. The fossil record tells us an intriguing story of their social dynamics. While modern lions live in prides of up to 15 individuals, American lion social groups appear to have been smaller but more efficient. bone assemblages at key sites like the Page-Ladson site in Florida and the Rancho La Brea deposits suggest groups of 4 to 6 adults working together with devastating effectiveness. Their smaller pride size, combined with their larger individual mass, meant each pride needed to bring down fewer but larger prey animals to sustain themselves. Perhaps most fascinating is the evidence of their den sites discovered in caves across the American West, particularly those found in the Grand Canyon region. These sites show signs of multi-generational use, some caves bearing marks of occupation spanning thousands of years. The walls of these dens often bear deep scoring marks from claws, a behavior seen in modern big cats, but at a scale that dwarfs anything in the present day. Some of these marks are placed over 3 meters high on cave walls, providing tangible evidence of their incredible reaching height when standing on their hind legs. These locations have yielded another surprising discovery: collections of bones from juvenile American lions of varying ages, suggesting that, like modern lions, they had developed sophisticated parenting strategies. Unlike solitary big cats such as tigers, American lions appear to have invested heavily in cooperative cub rearing, a social adaptation that speaks volumes about their intelligence and community. The bite force of the American lion. It's a number that still echoes in my mind. 1,800 pounds per square inch. Nearly 3 times stronger than a modern lion, and 6 times more powerful than the saber-toothed cat, the Smilodon. I can only imagine the power contained in those 4-inch canines. Fossil evidence tells a gruesome story. A grey wolf, its femur completely severed by a single bite. Not scavenging, not decomposition, but a clean, decisive strike from an American lion. The wolf lived somehow, but the event speaks volumes about the devastating force these cats could unleash. But it wasn't just brute strength. The American lion, I've learned, possessed a notably large brain case, hinting at significant cognitive abilities. I find this fascinating, the combination of raw power and intelligence. It makes me wonder how they perceived the world. Perhaps this intelligence explains their uncanny ability to avoid natural traps. Despite being one of the most common large carnivores of their time, their remains are surprisingly rare in tar pit fossil deposits, unlike the dire wolves and Smilodons. It suggests a level of environmental awareness that truly set them apart. Their range was vast, stretching from Alaska to central Mexico. They adapted to grasslands and semi-forested regions, sharing their territory with mammoths, mastodons, giant ground sloths, and, of course, early humans. I've often wondered what those encounters must have been like, and it seems those encounters left a mark. Studies suggest that the American lion may have influenced early American art and mythology. To think these magnificent creatures might live on in the stories we tell. Then came the end, about 12,877 years ago. A broader extinction event that swept across North America, taking many of its large mammals with it. Climate change, reduced prey, increasing human press. A combination of factors likely pushed these magnificent predators past their breaking point. It's a somber reminder of how fragile even the most powerful creatures can be. But there were other rulers of those ancient skies. Consider the Quetzalcoatlus. This creature, one of the largest flying animals in history, was named after an Aztec serpent god. When its discoverer first gazed upon its bones in 1971 in Texas, he knew he was looking at a monster. The remarkable flight capabilities of Quetzalcoatlus even inspired a Johnson Wax-sponsored mission to build a model flying machine to simulate its flight. The model, about the size of Quetzalcoatlus larsoni, used a basic computer as an autopilot and successfully demonstrated soaring and flapping. Interestingly, the hind limb proportions of Quetzalcoatlus and other ajdachids are more similar to modern running mammals than to their smaller pterosaur cousins, suggesting they were uniquely adapted to a terrestrial lifestyle, even though they were quadrupeds on the ground, like other pterosaurs. This has led scientists to study the lifestyle and feeding habits of Quetzalcoatlus in more detail. It's widely accepted that this flying giant was a carnivore, but exactly what it ate is still debated. Douglas Lawson, who first discovered Quetzalcoatlus, suggested it scavenged on the carcasses of sauropod dinosaurs, much like a marabou stork. He thought scavenging was the only option, as the fossil was found far from the coast, with no signs of large rivers or deep lakes nearby. However, this scavenging idea was challenged in 1996. Scientists pointed out that unlike the hooked beaks of scavenger birds, Quetzalcoatlus had a lower jaw that bent so steeply downward that even when closed, a significant gap remained between it and the upper jaw. The idea of a sky filled with colossal creatures. It makes me grateful to live in a time beyond their reign. Imagine encountering something like Quetzalcoatlus. Based on the options it had for hunting, nesting, and roosting, the creature clearly adapted to a variety of environments. It's even believed that Quetzalcoatlus lawsoni may have lived in swarms near alkaline lakes, suggesting a sociable nature, like wading birds. Quetzalcoatlus northropi, on the other hand, was most likely a solitary hunter, roaming freely inland. And it wasn't the only giant out there. Fossils hint at the possibility that creatures resembling Tyrannosaurus and Torosaurus may have coexisted with Quetzalcoatlus, although conclusive studies are still needed. Alongside the iconic Alamosaurus, Quetzalcoatlus may have crossed paths with other herbivorous giants and fearless predators, like the mighty T-Rex, Dromaeosaurus, Triceratops, Albertosaurus, Edmontosaurus, and Dakota raptor. In the skies, Quetzalcoatlus likely shared its domain with other pterosaurs, such as Pteranodon and Nyctosaurus, coexisting within those extinct ecosystems.